what was it called? Right, broadcast on it. Green lights on. Both, no? It's already started. Oh, you're right. Teamwork. Pleasure.
Basket. Okay, now you'll probably keep having to do this each time for me.
Tunji, do you want to start? Sa shi pu ki ja chi me to tran ri ra ling shi yen de jam pa di san de shin du me te u gi ja gu nam Shin la chu pong shu yin bu Churan Suki Janchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Naki Jinyun Ipe Sunam Ki Jula Pinchir Sange Dupar Shok Churan Soki Choknam La Janchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Jinyun Ipe Sunam Ki Jula Pinchir Sange Dupar Shok Churan Soki Choknam La Janchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Jinyun Ipe Sunam Ki Jula Pinchir Sange Dupar Shok. Hey, Yasmin. We're just starting. No, it's fine. Oh, she's got that's right. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Carol. It's very nice. All right. Nice big group. I was actually surprised because this class is a little bit different, and I thought might be some obstacles coming. So I thought there might be one or two people showing up. So I'm pleasantly surprised that there's so many of you. I almost didn't make it here. Like every light was red, and yeah, it took forever to get here.
There's no reading for this.
There's no reading for this class, yeah. And
why is that?
It is because today we are talking about the direct perception of emptiness. We're talking about how to see it, what you need to do what it is to see it and what happens right after you see it. So this is not in the reading, this is just added to it. But it's based on the reading, of course, because Lord Buddha is teaching Subhuti, right? About this in the Dhammapada Sutra. So it's definitely, it's an important class. And because this class is different than any other ACI class, I think this is the only class that doesn't have a reading in all 18 courses. I could be wrong, but I think so. And there's only one class like this one. So for this class, as much as I love discussion and questions and all that, for this class, I will ask you to try to get in your quiet space and just listen. And, questions, comments might come up. If you feel the need, just write them down and we can always talk about it later, or you can phone me or email, or we can even discuss it next class. But I think it will be beneficial just to kind of get in your quiet mode. And I'll probably ask you guys some questions, but just to not add any stories and any other, and let's just keep focus on and listen. Yeah. Because it's so important, because this is what all the 18 courses are about. This is what we want to reach, this is what we want to do. So it's kind of important to know what it is that we're talking about, right? So, seeing emptiness directly can be done by anybody in this room. First of all, I think that's very important to know. Anybody can do it. And it's important that you realize that you can do it. And you have to get the courage to do it. And the strength and the determination, right? Because it takes a lot to do it, but it's fully possible. And if you don't do it in this life, I don't know how long it will take before you come back in a rebirth as perfect as a setup as you have right now. So it's good not to waste your time and to get it done if you can, or at least try. And when you have this experience, it's the same, just like anybody, any holy being that has come before. Like it's the same experience, okay? Like 100% same. The whole experience takes about 20 to 30 minutes. That's it. And this is a life-changing experience. And you cannot kind of half see it. You cannot come to me and say, I think I've been in a place like that. I think I've had such an experience. I think, I ate something weird and then I meditated and then I had some strange stuff happen. Like, it's not like that. When you see it, you see it. After. You've seen it. There's no doubt about it. You're 100% sure. So if you think you may have seen it, you definitely not have seen it. Okay? Definitely not. And why do we want to see it? It's because it's the only thing that can stop your suffering. We've been talking in the last classes about these paths, and I just wrote them down. I don't know if you can see them, probably not, but that's okay. Those 5 paths is what you have to go through, right, as a spiritual practitioner. the third path is seeing emptiness directly. So we first have to do the first two paths to get to the third. So the very first level, and we've spoken about this, is the accumulation path. Right? And when you fully can say that you have reached this path, you have to have renunciation. And who can tell me what is renunciation again?
Abandoning the promise of some samsara.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She says abandoning the promise of samsara. Right? Yeah. So it's really giving up the worldly life. You realize that nothing can make you happy in this life, in a samsara existence. You're just spinning around. For eons you have been. And when you have true renunciation, you're done with it. You no longer fall for all these worldly attractions that will never ever have any power to make you happy. So in Tibetan it's Nyen Jung, and it means definitely come out. Nyen Jung, definitely come out. Definitely come out of what? Samsara. Yeah. Coming out of samsara and reaching Buddhahood. The second meaning of it translates more as Rapjung, I think, and it means gone away in the sense of leaving the home life. And if you want to become a monk, this is one of the requirements, right? You have to leave your home life. You have to leave your family, kids, whatever. Become a monk. Live in a monastery. Right? So you are renouncing the worldly life in order to become a monk. Now, some monks are monks, but they actually haven't left the worldly life. And there's people that aren't monks that have left the worldly life, right? So do you have to become a monk in order to have renunciation? You don't. You definitely can, but you don't have to. So you don't have to leave your partner, your house, your kids, okay, to practice this path. You don't. Lord Buddha did, right? He left. He left his palace and his wife and his child. But really what it means is like mentally, emotionally, you give up the worldly life. You give up all the things that you thought would make you happy. You have to wake up and realize that they will not. Nobody has the power to make you happy. Nothing, not a nice house or a nice partner or anything, can ever make you happy. And we've tried. We've tried for thousands and thousands of years, all those ways, you know. If I just, get rid of this partner, get a different one, then, this love will last forever or whatever. It's just not going to work like that. If I just, get rid of this debt, then things will be better, because then I don't have to think about it anymore. Well, guess what? Then there will be the next thing. It never ever ends. It's always the next thing. So renouncing is that you're just tired of trying to play that game that you'll never win. So it doesn't mean if you renounce the world that you cannot live a normal life. You can live a normal life. But your state of mind is different, right? You just don't fall for all the traps anymore. Many Buddhist practitioners, in order for them to come onto the Buddhist path, I'm sure not just the Buddhist path, any path, have had something horrible happen to them. Maybe they lost their loved one, or I don't know, get in some kind of accident, or whatever. They see people close to them in such pain, something that shakes them and wakes them up, you know, and makes them realize, I don't want to be part of this anymore. You know, I want out. I don't want to have pain anymore, and I don't want people around me to have pain anymore. And many people start their path with that, because you can realize that everything that you've accumulated, your partner, your kids, your things, your house, your family, your certificates for study, like all of it will be taken away from you one by one. Slowly it'll all go. Eventually your intelligence will go. You won't have capacity to think anymore. You'll end up dying, and there might be some pictures of you left, but after I don't know how many years, the last pictures of you are gone too. Like everything will be gone, right? You'll lose everything. When you die, you can't take any of the things that you've accumulated with you. What I skipped over was these two words, Tibetan words, say soso kyewo and pakpa. Soso kyewo is the Tibetan word for normal being. And in Tibetan, there's not many words that kind of sound similar, like something English. Aside from lelo. Lelo means laziness. Right? And then soso kyewo. Yeah, so, we're just so as normal beings. So that's the easy one to remember. And Pakpa is being a being that has seen emptiness directly. In Sanskrit, we say Aria. So there's two types of beings in the world, and that's only these two. So anybody who has not seen emptiness directly is a soso kyewo. And anybody who has is Pakpa. And that includes, so anybody like a Buddha is a Pakpa, right? They have realized emptiness. Yeah. Okay, so how do we see emptiness directly? So we first need to give up the worldly life, really. So in that first path, all that's part of it is these next few things that I'm going to say. So what do you need to do in order to have this experience that's only 20 or 30 minutes, and that will change you forever? The first thing you need to do is find yourself a teacher. And the reason for that is, if you want to become good at anything that you want to learn, to do it by yourself, I don't know if you can. I don't think you can. I started to study Tibetan this year, like really seriously, since July, and I can tell you, I could not do any of it without a teacher. There's no way. No way. Like, I need somebody who has done it before, who's a master, who knows exactly every little thing about it, you know, so I can pull myself, attach myself to that person and have them guide me, you know. Because without them, I couldn't do it. There's no way. So say you want to learn piano and you want to become like a concert pianist. It's going to take probably like 10 years of practice, right? 10 years of intense practice, like every day type of thing. And I doubt you can become a master without having a master. So you need somebody who tells you what to do, how to practice, what to work on, where are your weak points, what should be better, you know, point out what you're already good at, and to help you with love and patience. And they believe in you, right? I don't think you can do it without a teacher. So in the same way, if you do a half-ass practice, if you just do a little bit, you're not going to become this master pianist. In the same sense that you will not become an Aria if you're just going to do like a little bit, if you're not all in. So a teacher's role is to help you with that. They can tell you exactly, because they've done it, you see. They have gone through all their mental bullshit, I want to say, and get to the point where they are past that and they are no longer attracted to worldly things. They are not attracted to needing anything from you. All they want for you is you to become happy. And that's why they're there. And they know exactly what you need because they're a master at what they do. Just like the piano teacher. They know. So then you go to this teacher, you know, you carefully pick one out. You're not just going to go to the first teacher and say, do you want to be my teacher? No. You're going to think about this for a long time and you're going to look around and see what teachers are available and you're going to put some causes into place to find a teacher, right? And when you have found someone that pulls your heart, that you know this is it, then you stick to them like glue. Just like the piano teacher. You need to attach yourself to them until you become a master yourself. And then you don't need them anymore, right? It's the only way to do it. So you have to check them out carefully. Be very picky. Demand the very best. You know, say to yourself, I want to learn from the very best. And then whatever they say, you do it. And what they would say to you, you know, you go to them and ask them, so what should I be working on? What should I do? And they'll give you meditations. They'll give you things to practice on. You can discuss with them whatever it is that you're struggling. And they can guide you and give you tips. And, you know, you do what they say for a while. Then you go back to them and say, okay, I've done this meditation that you told me to do. I've done it for, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. I've done it every day like you told me to. Now what do? Do I keep going with this? Or am I ready for something new? And they'll tell you exactly what you need. And it's up to you, you know. You have to go to your teacher and ask them for your help. You have to attach yourself to them. You have to want it. You have to want it. So that's the very first thing. Find a teacher. And then the second thing is serve that teacher. Devote your life to them. And how does that look? I mean, that would look different for everybody. But I think you could say it's a state of mind again, right? And then as much as you can do, like in life, do it. I don't know, it can look so many different things. Cook for them, clean their house, do their taxes. I don't know. Whatever it is that they need, drive them to where they're going to teach, or it could look so many different ways. Sometimes it looks like doing absolutely nothing. When I went to take some painting classes from a Tibetan master, I bring offerings, right? Because that's what I do when I'm near someone that I consider my master. I will never ever go empty-handed. So I would bring him something every time, and he got pissed off at me. He didn't want nothing from me. He's like, "Why are you bringing me all this stuff? Like, stop bringing me stuff. I don't want your gifts." And then that's what you do. Then you don't bring anything. And that's the practice. That's the offering, right? So the next time I went to see him, I bring him nothing. And in my mind, I think, there you go. That's your offering. I'm offering you nothing. That's my offering for you. So that's a practice too, to do nothing, you know. Sometimes your teacher will say, you know, when you say, what do you want me to do? And they say, do nothing. I just want you to relax. I want you to do nothing. I don't want you to do any practice. I just want you to watch Netflix every day for a while. You know? It's true. That's what they do when that's what you need. And then that's what you do. You'll listen. Right? That can be the practice. They know exactly what you need. So you serve them. You serve them in whatever way that I guess you feel called to do. Practice is always a beautiful way to serve your teacher. You know, practice what you've been taught. Practice by doing your meditation, trying to study, or practice by not getting angry when someone challenges you throughout the day. In your mind, you can offer all of that to your teacher. You don't have to tell them in person. You can, but you don't have to. You can have a whole big thing happening, just all, you know, in your mind. You know, when you're a monk, it might be different and might be easier to, when you live with your teacher, right, in the same building, to bring them tea and bring them things all day long. Make sure that they don't have to do anything but just teach. Make sure that everything's always set up. Whatever room they enter, they don't have to cook, they don't have to clean, they don't have to do anything. All they can do is teach, right? It's really, really nice for a teacher if that's what they can focus on and don't have to worry about anything else. But this is for you, and it's not for the teacher. That should be clear, because a teacher doesn't need anything from you. Because you see, they've already accomplished. They're already master. They don't need anything. They don't need anything. They don't need you. They don't need you as a student. They don't. Might be even a little bit of a pain in the butt. I don't know. But it's not for them. That's what I'm trying to say. It's for you. It's for you, so you can accumulate that virtue that you need. And a teacher is a high object, right? Because they depending on how you see them, but I hope that when you find your teacher that you can see them as an enlightened being or someone like really high, that when you do something for them, you're generating so much virtue. So it's for you. They don't need you. They don't need your money. They don't need your help. They don't need your things. Okay? All they want for you is your happiness. So that's the second one. Then the third thing that you need to do in order to have this experience is help needy people. So that is just plain old service in your daily life, right? It could look a million different ways too. Like when you're a mom, of course, you're helping needy people all day long. But if you don't have kids, then there's a million other ways, you know, at your job, you know, help the people, whatever they need, whatever they want. Help old people. That's always a good one, especially people that are really lonely. Go help them. Sick people. You know, help sick people. Help people get to where they need to go after, you know, make sure they get rides to whatever it is. You know, just plain old service to the people around you. You can think about that, how that could look in your life. You know. And what is included in this is also, is if you are part of a Dharma center, then that's always a really good way to help too. Like help with fundraising or with setting up the space when a teacher is coming to teach, or help promote anything, help with the taxes, or help with whatever is involved. Right? But when you serve all these people and these centers, what's important is that you will not make that an excuse to not do your meditation or your own practice, right? It's important to do both. So that's the third. Then the fourth is meditate. It is not possible to see emptiness directly if you don't meditate. Every day. And the older you get, the harder it becomes to meditate. So while you're still young, your mind's still sharp, you gotta use that opportunity. Right? It's a small window. And you have to be able to meditate for an hour. In deep meditation, to be in deep meditation for an hour. And this takes time to get there. So there's no point in saying, okay, Mariska says I have to meditate for an hour, so I better sit for an hour. And then during that hour, for 55 minutes, you're off thinking about chocolate and your grocery list. And for 5 minutes, you're actually in a deeper state of meditation. There's no point in wasting your time like that. Okay? So you gotta work your way up. So start with 5 minutes if that's what you can do. And then you can just add. And there's different ways to do it. A great way to do it is to, like, you know, say you work your way up to 10 minutes, do 10 minutes, then take 5-minute break, do another 10 minutes, you know, like that, to keep yourself sharp and not dull. But, you know, you can talk to your teacher about it. We have a whole course on that too, course number 3, meditation. But you'll have to work up to meditating for an hour. If you don't meditate, you won't be able to see it. Then the 5th one is study. The Dalai Lama was asked, how do you see emptiness directly? And his answer was 3 words: study, study, study. And, you know, again, under teachers, the very best way. Study, you know, you go to class, whatever it is that you hear, you bring it with you during the week, you think about it, contemplate, meditate, you pick up your books, read, think about it, like that. memorize if that's your thing. Particularly about emptiness, right? Karma and emptiness. And you might have to go to classes and hear the same thing. You probably have to hear it like 500 times, the same thing. That's what it takes. Which is dangerous, because we can go to classes and we've already heard something. In your mind, you can go, yep, yeah, I know that, yeah, and you're not truly, which is a block, right? And you're not truly taking it in and opening yourself up for a deeper understanding. So you have to try to stay open when you go to classes. So when you're doing all these things and you've left the worldly life, you're in path number 2. You get to path number 2. And that was the path of preparation. In the path of preparation, how do you know that you're in this path called Jorlam? It's when you have reached certain things intellectually. You're starting to understand emptiness intellectually, big time. Okay? And then at this path, at the very end of this path, there's a certain realization that happens. But you can only get there by, having accumulated all this virtue, by doing all these other things. And that's a little bit of a difficult subject. It's called Chi-Chedrak. Say Chi-Chedrak. And some of us may have heard this in Asia 13, March maybe. Do you remember the term Chi-Chedrak? Quality and characteristics. This is Chi-Chedrak is a study that can trigger the direct perception of emptiness. You have to understand this. But yeah, to understand it, you have to have enough virtue in your pocket to understand it. So there's a few different chis, but I'm just going to try to keep it simple, or take the main things. You can read. There's some really nice notes with this class. You can read that at your own time. The purpose of this class is not to fully dive into this, but I do want to try to help you understand it. So, Chi-Chedrak. Chi is quality, Chedrak is characteristic. So, say Rik-Chi. Rik-Chi, you could say, is general. And Dun-Chi, say Dun-Chi. That would be like the characteristics. So you could say, this should be Rik. Subset. So Rik-Chi would be the concept car. Okay? When I say car, and we can do like car, this is a concept, an idea that we all have in our mind. Okay, of car. When I say Volvo, I like to say Volvo because I have a nice. It's a subset. Okay, Volvo falls under the Rik-Chi. Okay. And you need car in order to have Volvo. You cannot have a Volvo if there were no cars, right? So a car is an idea. A car, Volvo, is parked up right there. Okay? So where does car, or you could say carness, where does it exist? It's only an idea in your mind. And then when you see a car outside, you go, oh, a car. Okay? So the final hours before you see emptiness directly, after you've been studying and collecting all these good karmas, you come to this point called chuchok. So chuchok. Chuchok means highest dharma. So it's the highest thing that you ever have experienced up to that point. And what happens is that under the influence of all the good karmas, say you're going to make some tea, and all of a sudden you realize that what you're looking at is you're looking at a mental image of the pot. You realize that you see like a curve, maybe a darker top, some silver. So your eyes are moving around and they're collecting all these clues of the parts that you see of the pot. And they glue them together, and then you make in your mind the image of pot. And you call it pot. Even though we can't see the back of it, for all you know, it's like a paper cutout. There might not even be a back. Okay? But we are collecting the clues that we can see, and we put them together and we say pot. I'm looking at a pot. So you're looking at a projection. You're looking at a projection based on a few things. The shape, round, black, silver, a curve, and your mind goes, pot. This is a pot. So in this moment, you deeply realize that you are not looking at a pot. And this is what you've thought all these years, that you're looking at a pot. But you're not looking at a pot. You are looking at pot. The concept of pot. The idea of pot that's in your mind. So you have been looking at mental images your whole life. And you mistook them for it being the thing itself. And now in this moment you realize you're looking at a mental image and you label it onto the object. Okay. There's only clues out there. And you glue them together and you say pot. But there's no pot out there. Okay. So this can be dangerous territory, right? Does that mean there's nothing out there? Does that mean there's no pot out there? Absolutely not. There is a pot out there, it's functioning, I can make tea with it. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that nothing exists and nothing matters. No, it's just that it's existing in a different way than you always thought it did. Okay. So it's not meant to freak you out. It just meant, well, in that moment, you just understand that that's what you're doing. You are throwing labels around onto everything based on the concept in your mind that says pot. So you're looking at the idea in your mind, pot. You're not looking at a pot. You're looking at pot. And that, we have spoken about that in these classes too. That's fully because of your past deeds, because of the millions of years of karma, forcing you to see this as a teapot, right? Can't do anything about it. I can't change it. I cannot see that as a giraffe if I wanted to. Okay? I see it as a teapot, and that's fine. But it's important to know, you will just realize that in that moment, that you've just mistakenly been looking at everything your whole life. So this is a concept that needs, that you can't get that in 5 minutes. You need to think about that, meditate about that, study it, think about it some more, And when you do all these things that we've spoken about, it will just happen to you. Okay, so then you have this crazy experience where you see yourself just label things. Then you sit down in meditation. And because now you've been meditating for so long, you're really good at it, so it's no big deal. You just sit down, plop, deep meditation, and off you go. You see emptiness directly. So after you see that experience, what we just talked about, the pot, that's called dependent origination. Okay? Let me write that down. So that's important to know, dependent origination, if you see that directly. And there's a school called the Tantrika school, and they're really big on this whole Chichedrak thing. So if you want to study that more, that would be the school to look for.
How do you spell the
South Tantrika.
S-A-U?
Yeah. And it's one of the lower schools, but they're really, really good into that. Okay, so now you see emptiness directly. And what is it like? You can't describe it. No person who is in the direct perception of emptiness can think to himself, oh, here I go, this is it, I'm in the direct perception of emptiness. It's not like that. You're gone. You have no concept of yourself, of your physical body, of your surroundings, of your thoughts. Okay? So you cannot think at that moment. And in Tibetan they say chula chuchakpa. And this is translated as pouring in water into water. So subject, pouring water into water. Subject and object, you and emptiness. So the awareness of you, the awareness of emptiness that you're seeing directly at that moment disappears. So Western scholars, they translate this as non-duality. And that is something that's largely misunderstood. So I just wanted to say 2 things about that. Non-duality does not mean that you and the object are one. Okay? So we are not becoming one. It doesn't mean you melt into the object. You actually can't, because you are a changing thing. And emptiness is an unchanging thing. It's a negative. You cannot melt into that. So what non-duality does mean is that you cannot be aware of either. You cannot be aware. It doesn't mean they don't exist. Okay? And the second meaning of non-duality is totally equal. You are totally equal to all objects in the sense that you're all empty of self-nature. Okay? So you have this experience that we cannot describe. So I can't describe it, so we're moving on. You come back, and when you come back, you have this feeling that you are actually coming down, okay? Because you were in a higher awareness, you were in a high state of concentration, right? So you can have this physical feeling, you're coming down. And when you come down, you know you saw emptiness. And then you have a confirmation thought, confirming the thought that you thought you had seen emptiness. Okay, so you know for sure. And no matter what anybody will say to you ever, it doesn't matter. You know what you saw. Okay, there is no mistake. There's no doubt about it. Okay. And so when this happens, say this happens in the morning, then the rest of the day, for say the next 12 hours, all these other experiences will start to happen that are part of the whole thing, the whole package. So maybe if you saw it in the night, then it'll kind of happen for the next day, or even 2 or 3 days, okay? And those are called the 4 Aria truths. So you start to realize those directly. And they'll start when you're still in meditation posture, and they'll go on the whole rest of the day while you're walking around and doing things. It's a lot of things that happen, so we're not going to cover all of that. But what I'll do is we'll go through the 4 Aria truths, and we'll give some examples of each one, of what type of thing happened to you. Does anybody need a chocolate or chip break? That would be a good time. I'm good, thank you.
A little.
Sorry?
Do you think you'll go back to truth?
You need to leave early? Yeah, I think we should be done with it. Because it's the one I wanted. You could use it. It's good. Good job.
Many years ago. Yeah.
Okay. So the first noble truth, Aria truth, is the truth of suffering. And that's the first one you realize. Okay. And examples on how you realize that is that you will understand directly your death, impermanence. How you must die. You understand the death process. The other thing is what happens is you can read people's mind for that day. And by doing so, you can see how we're all suffering by just watching someone's mind. We got it bad. You can see the selfishness. Everything that we do is all for our own benefit. Wanting. You can see exactly how the thought process is of people. You can see what they're thinking directly. It's hard. It's hard to see because you can't do anything about it, right? Not in that moment, anyways. And that's why we're doing this, in order for us to become beings that can do something about it. Eventually. But it can be heartbreaking to see, how people think. So the truth, the second Aria truth, is the truth of the cause of suffering. So you understand that there is a cause to the suffering, which is ignorance, right? Which is not understanding karma and emptiness. If you don't understand karma and emptiness, you act in the wrong ways, which will create more suffering. So you realize in that moment that you have never had a correct perception in your whole life. All your perceptions have been steeped in ignorance. Until that point, right? Until you see emptiness directly, you've never had one correct perception. And you see that you've been so selfish. You see that you've never done actions in your life that were fully for the benefit of others. Any relationships you have, any time you do a good deed, like it's all pretty much aimed at getting something. Even the good things like offerings, prayers, reciting something. It was all mixed up with selfishness. You don't engage in any relationships at all without getting something out of it. So you realize that in that moment. Then the third Aria truth is the truth of cessation of suffering. when you come down from this experience, you realize that you've seen the Buddha directly. Its essence, emptiness, which is the main body of the Buddha. And you know at this point how many lifetimes you still have left to finish off completely, to become a Buddha. And 7 lifetimes is very typical. And I know that 7 lifetimes may sound like a long time, but in that moment you've just realized that you have had eons of lives before that were all steeped in ignorance, that were all suffering. 7 is like nothing compared to what you have gone through to get to this moment. And those 7, which doesn't have to be 7, actually, it could be 1. You could finish it off in 1 lifetime if you do certain practices. But if you have 7, you'll have good lives. Because I didn't say, like in the path, when you hit the second path, about 3/4 through, you cannot have a lower rebirth anymore. It's not possible. Okay. So after seeing emptiness directly, you definitely will not have that. So your next few lives will be good. You'll be good. You have good lives. You also realize that your name will be different. You will not be called Mariska. Then the 4th path is the truth of the path to the cessation of suffering.
Can you repeat that?
Yes, the truth of the path to the cessation of suffering. So the 4th path is the path to the cessation of suffering. Okay. So here you get a very, very strong experience of bodhicitta. And this is a very physical feeling. You can sense it as your heart is cracking open, really. So light is pouring out of your heart. You are in love with all beings. You see all beings. And the rest of your life you will dedicate it to help other people, to help them become happy. So here you have the true experience of bodhicitta. Now, you can actually have this experience before you see emptiness directly. But often it goes paired because of, what's happening in your subtle body, the way your winds, your energies are all been moved to the center. It often goes hand in hand. Most of the time, I would say. Another thing that you understand is the direct need for prostrations. And as soon as you get up from your meditation, you do your first prostration, and it'll be like your first ever prostration. Because you throw yourself down on your face of awe. And you do it, and you make your first offering, and none of it is steeped with self-interest. And it could be like you spend your last cent on an offering, and nobody would ever maybe even see it. You don't care. It's typical to, when you see emptiness directly, to buy a diamond, because that's another part of these realizations, is you understand why in these scriptures they're using the diamond as a metaphor. So often what you do is you would buy a diamond and maybe you offer it to your teacher, or you throw it in the ocean or something like that. There's no self-interest in it, so it doesn't really matter what you do with it. Okay. You understand images of Buddhas, those Tibetan tankas. You understand that somebody at some point has seen directly what's on this image, and then people are painting it, and then teacher painters teach their students, and it's a lineage of painting, but the first person that made it saw it. Right? So you understand the strong power of these images. You understand that all of the Buddhist scriptures are true, and you feel the need to preserve these teachings. You understand that it's totally correct, all these books, and that there really is enlightenment, that there really is a way to get to enlightenment, that emptiness is really true, and if you perceive emptiness directly, that you will become enlightened. You perceive all of these things directly. You have no more doubt. And the last realization that you have is that you're not crazy. You know what you saw. That what happened to you is absolutely true. And all the realizations that you have in that day are absolutely true. So when you come out, what will reinsert itself is your mistaken view. Okay? So when you see emptiness directly, when you come back, you understand that everything I just said, all your perceptions have been mistaken. But when you go back into the world after seeing this, you will still see things the wrong way. However, at this point, you cannot believe them anymore. No matter what anybody will tell you, you will not believe the self-existent looking things anymore. Okay? You still have the seeds to see things as self-existent, but now you have this wisdom that's crazy powerful that will cut that. But that's just going to take some time. Eventually, you will not see things as self-existent anymore. So it's not like you're Buddha when you have this experience. No, but you are on your way to become a Buddha. So the two things that you got rid of in the moment, after seeing emptiness directly, is doubt. And the belief in self-existence. So those are the two afflictions that you've gotten rid of. So now you still have 84,000 ones more to go. But the good news is that it will go very rapidly because of what you have experienced. You no longer buy into any of it, okay? So it will go very quickly. So, okay, good. So now you're on the fourth path, the path of habituation. So here you are habituating to what you saw. And it's going to be a little bit crazy for a while because, you know, you're a different being now, having had this experience. And then to function in a world where you see everybody create their own suffering all the time, it's not going to be easy, especially with this new understanding that you've gained. But you know, in time, you'll find your way. And you know what you're going to do on the path of habituation is working on all of the rest of these afflictions that you still have, and on a daily basis, you just get rid of all your bad emotions, and it's going to be so easy because you have nothing's going to fool you anymore because you don't buy into it anymore. You know, anybody can say anything to you, provoke you in any kind of way, but you know that it's all your projection. You know that you've created it because of your past deeds. So you're not going to be pulled by any of it, right? So you will rapidly get rid of all those bad emotions. And when you do, you've reached nirvana. Because nirvana is the cessation of all your afflictions, right? So that's what you do on the path of habituation. You go through all these levels. We call them bhumis. So there's 10 bhumis that you work your way through. And you have to overcome all of your obstacles to omniscience, right? Because that's what Buddhahood is. You're an omniscient being then, without any afflictions of any kind. You know exactly how to help anybody at any time. So, at the end of the path of habituation, you lose your inborn, innate tendency to see things as self-existent. And that's how you become a Buddha. So that's basically it. You know, initially you have to get over those mountains. You have to have renunciation. You have to prepare to see emptiness. You have to study. You must leave the world. You must develop the ability to meditate, serve people, understand that you're looking at mental images. You have to contemplate that. Then you can reach it. That's it. That's all. Then you've reached no more learning. Then you're there. Yeah. Ranjit, do you mind if there's somebody at the door? So we'll just, hi! We're done the class, we're just gonna finish up. Shri Ruki Joshimi Tramvirabushi Nyande Sange Shinju Mete Nirakunam Shimaju Nike Sunam Yeshe Sunam Yeshe Leisham Namban Kuni Toposh. Thank you for being there.
That's
Don't listen.